So it seems like not too long ago, I did my review of Rosé Noir by Gallagher Fragrances, which I kind of compared to Rosé All Day, previous release from the brand. Well, here we have a brand new one, and this one is called Mists of Time. I'm definitely really fascinated by the note breakdown, and I'm excited to tell you all about this fragrance, the smell, the performance, all that good stuff. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's review of the brand new fragrance by Gallagher Fragrances, this one is called Mists of Time, and I tell you about the smell, the performance, the longevity, comparison, so on and so forth, I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time I do upload a video to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you take something of value from today's review. It would really mean a lot to me. So here you have an indie perfumer. His name is Daniel Gallagher, and he started this brand several years ago on his own. Since then, he's released many fragrances. My favorite is probably Amongst Waves. It's a really unique, sort of fresh yet slightly sweet composition. And here you have another fragrance that can come across smelling a little bit sweet, but there are some musky components to it as well, specifically the black currant, because black currant gives off a musky aroma. So the note breakdown here is candied orange, which, I mean, there's a bit of an obscurity there, right? Because where's that candied component coming from? Mandarin, black currant, patchouli, birch, and mineral notes. So I think two adjectives that I would use to describe this fragrance based off the name, based off the smell, are ethereal and mysterious. And so I'm excited to get in a little bit more detail regarding the smell. But let's go ahead and start things off with the presentation. So this fragrance opens up with a combination of sweet and musky with a secondary vibe of citrus. So what do I mean by that? There aren't really too many animal notes in here, none according to this note breakdown, but black currant actually smells musky. Sometimes it's known as cassis, and some people have even equated the smell of black currant to that of cat pee, which I think that's pretty much a stretch, right? I think that's very harsh of a comparison. I do think it has its own charm and allure to it, and it's not a smell that repels me, right? So I actually really like the smell of it. It is a musky smell, but you have so many other gregarious elements in this fragrance that kind of tone it out, right? It tones it down. So you have the candied orange for starters. Now, it's funny because when I smelled this fragrance for the first time, I kind of wanted to go in blind. So I covered the note breakdown. I didn't want to see what was listed on the box or the bottle for that matter. I smelled it and I did pick up on something sweet, but I didn't get the orange right away. Citrus, yes. Orange, not so much. And then when I looked at the note breakdown and I smelled it again, I was like, oh, yep, there's the orange, there's the mandarin. So some of these notes became clearer, if you will, and certainly that was the case with the mandarin and that candied orange in the opening. Now, in terms of the candied orange, it's kind of hard to tell what's making it sweet, and I think whenever you add sweetness to a fragrance, you're kind of adding this agreeable element that makes all of the other seemingly difficult and challenging notes that much more accessible. And I do think that that's what's happening here with not only the birch but also the black currant, because both of those can kind of be daring. So the candied component is kind of toning things down, and you know, it's kind of a fruity sweetness that I'm getting from it. I don't know if I would equate it to the smell of melon or some kind of exotic fruit, but that's where I felt like the sweetness was coming from. I'd really be curious to know what's giving it that sweet smell, but I do get the orange in the opening. That musky component from the black currant eventually does settle down, but there are some mineral notes in here that last a long time. So while the muskiness dissipates, the mineral notes linger, and that I think is going to be a good thing for a lot of people because it adds to the uniqueness. It adds to the obscurity. It also kind of in a strange way adds to the freshness. You know, whenever you think of a lot of aquatic fragrances, they usually have like a mineral accord or an ozonic accord or a salty accord, just something to offset the citrus so it's not like a plain Jane composition. And I think that that's kind of the purpose that the mineral notes serve in here. So it adds a layer of uniqueness to the fragrance, and that's something that I was able to say about pretty much all of his fragrances, if I'm being honest. The only one that I made a comparison to another fragrance with was Rosé All Day. I said it kind of reminds me of Owajan by Parfum de Marly, or Ambre Narguilé by Hermès, Angel Share by Kilian Paris, Manhattan by Roja Parfum. They're all kind of in the same vibe, that sort of sweet, spicy cinnamon, but that's not what I'm getting from this. This fragrance is unique. This fragrance stands out on its own, and it has a lot of really interesting elements happening in here. However, it is non-linear, so you're going to get a pretty steady progression from one chapter of the fragrance to another, with the musky component probably being the first thing to take its exit. The sweetness becomes more pronounced as it dries down, and the mineral notes are pretty resolute, so you're going to get them from the start all the way to the finish. Now, birch has a smoky smell, and I'm not getting a whole lot of that from this fragrance. There are indeed a lot of smoky fragrances that I own, and I wouldn't put this anywhere near them in terms of a comparison. So I don't really get a lot of birch from this fragrance. Aside from that, patchouli, yeah, possibly on the earthier, drier side of things, not on the sweet, chocolatey side of things, because some patchouli fragrances, like Noir de Noir by Tom Ford, are kind of on the sweet, chocolatey side of things. So this one is more on the dry, bitter, and herbal side of things, but perhaps my judgment is a little bit clouded because of the black currant. In any case, I do think it's a unique fragrance, and I think it signifies and showcases a really wonderful evolution on behalf of the skills of the perfumer. I like it. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this is certainly a unique fragrance. I really can't compare it to anything else that I own or that I've tried, and I always enjoy having a unique olfactory experience. And as a matter of fact, that's kind of what's written on the inside of the box. It says, your new olfactory memory awaits, or a new olfactory memory awaits. That's on the inside of this inner flap here. And I think they always strive to do that, and they're always successful in executing that feeling. So uniqueness is there. Overall smell, I think the black currant can be a little bit too much, especially in the opening. So you probably want to give this some time to settle down. And then the dry down is something that's really unique, really interesting, especially if you are a collector or you're in the market for something that doesn't smell like what everybody else is wearing. I would at the very least sample this fragrance. Longevity on this one, you can expect 8 to 9 hours, which is very good. And it's also characteristic of some of other Daniel Gallagher's creations. Projection on this one was great for the first hour of application when it radiated beyond an arm's length. It was an elbow's length fragrance at that 4-hour mark. At that 6.5 to 7-hour mark, it became very close to the skin, pretty much disappearing at that 8 to 9-hour mark. In terms of the versatility of this fragrance, I do think it leans a little bit masculine. However, it is totally unisex. These are just recommendations. Wear what you like and wear what makes you happy. I think this is more of a formal fragrance, if I'm being honest. I think this one will probably appeal to somebody who's a little bit older and a little bit more experienced in dealing with niche and indie fragrances. And I can see just generally somebody who's a little bit more mature really enjoying this one. In terms of seasons, I think the intermediary seasons is where this one is going to do best. So springtime, autumn. I suppose you can pull this off in the summertime as well. It's a pretty versatile fragrance. I think it can really be all year long, but I think spring and autumn is really when it's going to shine. And in terms of the presentation, I'm sure you know by now, Gallagher fragrances have upgraded their presentations, and I really do like the metal plaque here on the front, the unique shape on the cap as well, the engraving of the name, while really maintaining to their cultural roots, right, with the shamrock here on the sides. My final verdict is, if you're a fan of fresh fragrances, but you want something that does fresh with a twist, the sweetness in the orange, the mineral notes, the musky sensation coming from the blackcurrant. Definitely check out the brand new Mists of Time by Gallagher Fragrances. If there is an opportunity for you to sample it, I would definitely recommend it. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you took something of value from today's episode, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time I do upload a future video to the channel, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It would really, really mean a lot to me. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.